Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for Demon Slayer Season 3 on Netflix. And I actually really enjoyed this season. I like how it's kind of been set up. We kind of have been going through, we see Tanjiro going through his training, get introduced to Inosuke and Zenitsu, and then we start moving through understanding the Hashira, Rengoku being the first one, Tengen being the second one, and this one focusing on giving us more time with Tokito, the Mist Hashira, and Kenroji, the Love Hashira, and how that they get really good character development out of this. It's a hard thing to accomplish with like 11 episodes, so this details the Swordsmith Village arc, and I think they did a really good balancing job here. It's very hard to do that with 11 episodes, but we get more information on Muzan as well, but we get mainly the bulk of the information on Tokito, and then not as much on Kenroji, but she doesn't get sidelined completely. I do like that we get them fleshed out, and it's not just, oh, here's the sexy dressed Kenroji, and just kind of leave it at that. We get more into her motivations, who she kind of is as a person, and I kind of want them to get more in depth on how her kind of sword works, because it is not a regular sword, and the swordsmith villagers know what they're doing, but I'm kind of like, what the fuck's kind of going on with this shit? So we had seen that the kind of rescue corps had found Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke, and Nezuko, kind of brought him back. Tanjiro's been out of commission for a few months at this point. Let's see. And we see that, like, he wakes up to some Castella cake and everything, and Inosuke's been, like, on the ceiling kind of watching his ass, but him and Zenitsu kind of get put off on their own kind of mission, so they're pretty much sidelined for the entirety of this arc, which I'm fine with. We got a lot of them in the last one, and even though I like their characters, having them on a little break like this is fine, especially since it's like 11 episodes, so we'll see how they kind of factor back into the story as we go on throughout the series. We also see that Muzan calls the rest of the upper ranks and being like, you guys fucking suck. You haven't eliminated this family I wanted you to eliminate, and you haven't found the blue spider lily. What the fuck's kind of going on with you? And we learned that, let me see, what was his name? Gyoko? Gyoko, upper 5, says that he's got some information that he wants to, like, utilize, and he, like, gets his head cut off, and it's like, what the kind of fuck's going on here? And we also see the kind of interplay with them. We see that Asuka's the one that pretty much gets us into this kind of effect. Now, granted, even though it's sorry for the little tangent, even though it's 11 episodes, the first and the last one are kind of double length, so you still kind of even it out. But we see Asuka, the fifth one that pretty much took out Rengoku, is like, what the fuck's kind of going on here? And then we see kind of the rest of them, it's like, ooh. And I can understand someone talking about, like, this being kind of accelerated pacing, because evidently this is the first time in, like, over 100 years that an upper 6 has been killed. And then we pretty much get a kind of accelerated kind of time frame on what's kind of going on towards the end of this season. But we kind of see the interplay. The Gyoku dude is pretty much a kind of weird pottery, beauty-obsessed, weird-ass motherfucker with eyes in his mouth, eye in his mouth, and an eye on his forehead, and then his eyes as mouths for him to talk, and he's utilizes water in pots. We get this Fear 1, let's see, upper 4, Hatengu, upper 3, of course, Asuka, upper 2, Doma, who, of course, created the upper 6 ones, and then upper 1, Kokushibo, who looks eerily familiar to the person that we start seeing in Tanjiro's dreams as he was having those kind of things, because evidently one of his ancestors who looked very similar to him was saved by a swordsman from a demon that looks like this upper 1 person, which got a similar kind of scar thing, and we learn throughout this season that there are other people that have the same kind of thing that Tanjiro has, and one of the demons remarks that it looks like a demon crest, which is interesting, and we don't get much more on it in the season, so I'm waiting to see how that kind of works out. So, what does that mean for their powers and everything? Because we see this kind of unlocking with the two Hashira, Tokito, and Kenroji as well. So we also see the interplay of the upper ranks where Doma is like, oh yeah, you should come to my place and shit like that. And evidently he's pretty much got like a temple where he's like the big asshole dude in charge. Akaza keeps like saying, I fucking hate you, and punching his head off. And upper one's like, stop that shit, show some respect and everything. And then pretty much goes off, even though he's got like 6 fucking eyes and shit's like, what the fuck's up with this? And then we see something else that looks similar to him that's in the Swordsmith Village, so we'll kind of have to see how this kind of plays out and what are the connections as well. So, Tanjiro is pretty much doing his rehabilitation, and let's see. Haganeska is like, I'm not gonna forge you any more swords, you keep breaking this fucking shit. So he's got to travel there to figure out what's kind of going on. And of course they have to blindfold him, plug up his nose and everything. He gets shuffled around by the rest of the kind of support Demon Corps people as he kind of gets there. And then it's like, oh, this is kind of interesting to see them all with the masks and everything. And it's really kind of interesting because we see Haganeska without the mask at a certain point. And it's like, it's really kind of weird. His face looks awesome and how it's drawn and everything, but all I recognize him with is the fucking weird looking face mask. It's like, what the shit? And I'm like, okay. He meets with the chief. He's like, yeah, just chill. We need to get Haganeska because he's being a fucking asshole about this fucking bullshit. And then we see that he gets reintroduced to Kanroji, and she's like, oh, hello, Tanjiro, and tells him that there's like a secret weapon that's supposed to make people stronger in this village, before he also gets up to the hot spring and runs into Genya again, the kind of asshole that we had seen in when they were pretty much getting introduced to the Demon Corps, and he's the Wind Hashira's younger brother. And we also get information on him, and by default, the Wind Hashira as well. So Tanjiro tries to be as nice as possible and everything. He gets a tooth thrown at him by Genya. He's like, what the fuck's going on here? And I hope we get more information on Genya as well, because they introduce some interesting kind of aspects here that kind of the Demon Slayer Corps might have more going on than what we're led to believe in regards to demons and everything like that, because we see that as it starts kicking off, the Gyoku dude pretty much found the Inn Village and pretty much set upon it, but we don't get that completely yet. We see that Tanjiro is like looking around trying to find the secret thing, but he sees Tokito trying to get this little kid, Kotetsu, to give him the key to utilizing this sparring mechanical doll. The thing he doesn't want to, because he's afraid that the Hashiras could pretty much destroy it and they won't be able to make it again and like fix it. And Tanjiro's trying to argue with him, and he's just being cold, calculating, just an aloof asshole. But we find out that he's got amnesia, and he's trying to figure out all that and trying to get his memories back. Even the master is trying to kind of like help him. He's like, hey, don't push it, just try and see what kind of goes on. And he pretty much goes through, takes off one of the arms of the thing. It's like, ah, shit. And the Kotetsu dude's like, fine, we'll do this, we'll utilize this, it's got to be used in training, and if I need to, I'll try and fix it myself. That's the kind of challenge. And then he pushes Tanjiro completely hard, and Tanjiro then like beheads the mechanical doll and finds that there's a sword inside. And then Haganeska comes up like, what the fuck are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And we find out that it's like, what was it? A really old sword, like 300 years old? Yeah, built over, the sword, built after a swordsman over 300 years ago. And that he's an orphan, and it's his only heirloom, the kid's Kotetsu. And then, of course, he's like been solitarily training to improve himself. He's like, I got this shit. So he's like, here's a spare one. And of course, he's still, and it's like, okay, as he goes to pretty much do the blade. And then he's like, Kotetsu's like, yeah, use the blade. He's like, it's rusted. So he's like, I'm going to do my shit. I got this. So we see that Tanjiro is still trying to like befriend the Genya guy. Not really working out. Yeah, he's having some nice moments with Nezuko. Him and Nezuko actually have a nice kind of connection with Kanroji, but she has to go off for her next kind of thing and has to leave. But that really sucks, because that's, of course, when the two upper rank demons of Gyoko and upper rank 4 let me see. Huntengu decide to descend upon them, and that's where it starts to like get off, and we start getting more interesting background for our characters. I really like how they're able to balance the action and actually delivering good character development as well. That's a hard thing to do where it doesn't feel like a plot exposition and everything slows to a fucking crawl, or you've got just action and you start getting dulled to it. That doesn't really happen here in this season, and I'm just like, you guys know what you're doing. And the animation, top form still, as we start seeing the water and everything being used with the pot dude as he's Gyoku just being like, this is my beauty and everything, and utilizing them to kill the villagers and create these weird fish vase fuckers going around. Tokito starts trying, he's like, fine. Tanjiro's kind of a bit of like, you should help someone, because when you help someone, you're really helping yourself. I'm like, I like how he's able to say that. And then, of course, triggers some stuff in Tokito as he's going through and trying to battle this. And, of course, he's had a new blade made as well. But he still gets set upon and has a really intense battle with Kyoko. And, again, I have to hammer this on them, that they do a really good job of making these battles hard-won and hard-fought. And even though Tanjiro is like, he survived fighting technically 2 upper-ranked demons. Yeah, but he barely got by the skin of his teeth, and it took him fucking forever to kind of heal back up. And he's still not healed back up completely at this point either. He's still able to do some interesting kind of things, because I really like in this one that he's able to utilize thunder breathing as well. Thunder breathing? I don't know, that's towards the end. Yes, thunder breathing. Ha ha ha. And, of course, water breathing and the Himokage Kamara. Himokage Kagura. Shit, why am I having trouble with that today? Himokage Kamara. Yes. Himokame Kagura. Shit. I don't know why I'm going a little bit weird on that today. Whatever. Sorry about that, but seeing different kind of breathing styles used and other people unable to use breathing styles, because once that starts setting up, we pretty much see the fear one, Huntengu going after them, and mainly like Tanjiro and Genya. Genya tries to go after him, gets his head cut, he cuts his head off, and then he starts splitting into other ones. It's like, don't do that shit! And because it's like doing all these different kind of emotions from him. Pleasure, anger, sadness, fear, all these different kind of ones, and each have their own different kind of power, and seeing them try to figure out how to fight this is very kind of cool, because Tanjiro is trying to do his tactical stuff, Nezuko is trying to do her best ability as well. Genya utilizing a sawn-off shotgun with Nichirin buckshot was fucking cool and a fucking different thing. Before we start seeing them kind of like tackle all these demons in different kind of ways, he's trying to figure out how they can decapitate them all in one go before he starts figuring out that things aren't quite as they seem. Genya getting severely injured at certain points, and we finding out that he has some demonic aspects and he can't use breathing techniques. But it's never truly explained what it is. It's not on the level of Nezuko, but it's not that he's like a pure human either. And we get his backstory with the Wind Hashira, that him and his siblings were set upon by their mother, as their father was pretty much good for nothing, and that the mother tried to kill them, but then the brother, the Wind Hashira, killed her. And the thing is, he said horrible things to his brother, and he wants to like take those back. He wants to be a Hashira, and that's pretty much his whole kind of goal, to kind of apologize for that, as we see that the Wind Hashira is definitely kind of fucked up over the whole kind of thing of having to kill his mother and then being called a murderer by his surviving brother. And it's just like, oh shit. So we'll kind of see how that goes, because at first he starts clashing with Tanjiro, but then when Tanjiro starts having good ideas and be like, listen, we have to strike the main body, which is the fear one, which is small and likes to hide around and zip around, seeing them kind of tactically work together like that is really kind of cool. Tokito's was pretty interesting as well, because we learn as he's pretty much getting screwed over by the Gyoko and still trying to fight to get his sword, he starts getting his memories again, learning about his father, his mother being sick, his father attempting to get medicine for her, but falling to his death and dying, and him and his twin brother having to live on their own. Now his twin brother was very cold and telling him to stop being pretty much kind and wanting to help people and everything when they couldn't help themselves and everything. And it was just hard because that's the person he'd been emulating. And then a demon came and attempted to kill them both, and he just went and Tokito went into a fit of rage and was able to kill him. But he gets back and he sees that his brother's like, please let my brother live. He deserves better than this. I shouldn't have been how I was with him, because the master's wife had attempted to bring them in, mainly because they are descendants of the first breathing style. And of course, Tokito was like, we could do this, we can help people. And he's like, no, screw that shit. And he's like, and we see them surviving this ordeal. Well, we see Tokito surviving this ordeal, clutching his dead brother's body, and then him being brought back. And we see that this opens up a new thing with him, as we see him get those kind of markings that are similar to Tanjiro's whenever he gets into a different kind of mood and mindset. And it's like, oh shit, and we see him just like take apart Yoko, and he's still fucked up with like poison and everything. And we see that Kotetsu has attempted to help him out as well, as Haganesuka is just trying to get that blade back into a better kind of position. But the thing is, Tanjiro needs it because he doesn't have a great Nichiren sword. And we see that eventually the upper four's main emotions fuse into this hatred one, and he's utilizing these kind of wooden dragon heads. But that's when Kenroji comes back, and we utilize and see her story as well. Now granted, she doesn't get as much screen time with her backstory as the other ones, but it is not terribly complicated. So I'm at least like, okay, at least they did this, as we learned that she was very strong at a young age, that she has that strength even though she doesn't have like a jacked up physique because of the density of her muscles, and that she just really liked these like sakura cake things, and has the pink and green hair, and that her mother and father were very supportive of her, but nobody was really kind of going out to make her a bride or whatnot. And there was a marriage called off, and making this kind of thing of love and trying to find that kind of acceptance is a very good and key aspect for her, since she is the love Hashira. And that she can do these strong things. She really likes to eat and everything, and she hid this stuff, and she was about to get married, but she couldn't go through with it. She wanted to be herself, and the master accepted her into the Demon Slayer Corps, and she was just very happy about that. And it's really kind of cool because Tanjiro and Nezuko accept her as well. So we see that she pops up and utilizes her blade, which is more like a whip. And it's not really explained, but it's really kind of cool to see her utilizing it in action, and Tanjiro trying to talk to her about everything that they've learned about the demon, and her being able to take certain kind of hits and then being like, thank you for this, and she's pretty much able to hold them off as they pretty much hunt for the body to take off the head. Haganesuka, he was pretty much completely in the zone as the upper fifth was trying to pretty much kill him because he was pissed off because Haganesuka wasn't fucking listening to him. So he gets killed by Tokito, and Tokito is pretty much really fucked up after this, but pretty much gets Haganesuka to throw the blade to Tanjiro on them, because Tanjiro needed a blade to cut off the demon's head. This is kind of where he starts utilizing the thunder breathing to get a kind of better speed and take on the main head, the main aspect of the upper four. But we learned that, like, instead of the big kind of body, the little body's inside, and it's really getting close to sunrise, and that is dangerous to Nezuko. So he's working against the clock here, and he gets the blade. He's trying to stop the demon from killing and consuming these other villagers, and he thinks he's beheaded it, but it's still running after them without a head and everything, and he's trying to figure out what's going on because Nezuko is getting burned, and she decides to make the decision for him and kicks him away so that way he can go and save the people. And we see Nezuko burning, but he's able to get there and get the demon out and utilize pretty much all the breathing techniques that he's got and beheads that demon. And he's just crying and everything, and we see that Nezuko's alright, she's able to talk in the sunshine, and it's just a great moment. And I really like that sibling relationships are a big kind of core function in this show, and I like that it is explored so well through various different ones. Mainly, not as much with Kanroji, even though she has a brother, but with like Tokito, with Genya, with Daki, and the upper six, Gotaro, in the previous season. But the main one with like Tanjiro and Nezuko, as they're trying to support and help each other throughout this, is like, wow, it's a demon that can walk in the sun. What's this going to change and everything? Kanroji being happy and everything that they survived, she survived, and it's like, holy shit. And of course, this starts bringing in the various different aspects with Muzan. So we end out, everybody's all right. We see that Haganeska kind of helps out more with the blade. He's like, it's not completely finished yet. And the chief's like, nah. And we see them thanking Tanjiro and Nezuko as they kind of leave out. And that's pretty much their ending. They're setting up for the next season. However, I still need to get into the fact that Muzan has pretty much killed the family that he was living with as the little boy kind of thing, and that he doesn't need to find the blue spider lily anymore, because we start getting his background. It was 1,000 years ago. He was sickly. He was going to die, and he was like talking about this quack doctor giving him this medicine, and it wasn't working, so he killed the dude. And we see that it goes into kind of this other kind of medicine. But we learned that it's still working, and this transformed him into a demon. He got strength and everything, but he had the propensity to consume flesh. He can go out in the sun, and he's been trying to get that kind of ability ever since. And that is what he was doing in expanding the demons, attempting to do a kind of forced evolution of trying to find a way to get to walk in the sun and be this kind of unchanging thing. And it makes sense. I'm glad that they gave a pretty much good motivation for this. I mean, granted, you could just make him an evil bastard who just likes to fuck people over. And granted, there is a certain kind of aspect on this. Or he just does not care about human life. However, he was sickly. He doesn't want to be he wants to be unchanging. He wants to be able to go out in the sun and do everything that he wants to. So these are clear, solid motivations, and he's been doing this for like 1,000 years, and that he wants to go and consume Nezuko now to obtain her ability. And it's like, oh shit, we're kind of getting into endgame kind of territories of this is what he's been wanting all along. He will now go harder for Nezuko, and he's like, I don't care that I lost 2 more upper ranks. Now, granted, I do think that that is a little bit fast-pacing-wise, but I think it is balanced out with the fact that even though it was like 11 episodes and we've got 2 more upper ranks down without the loss of any Hashira, it could get horrendous going forward. I mean, we've already lost a Hashira to 1 upper rank. We then kind of even that out with losing an upper 6 and technically another Hashira with Tengen, even though he's more in kind of support role at this moment. So we'll have to see what one would be taken out next, because I do see that like Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tanjiro would take up the arms for being the kind of next Hashira. Also, we get introduced to the fact of the whole kind of inherited memories. That's how Tanjiro was seeing the stuff with the Sengoku period swordsman, or at least the one that was like 300 years ago that's modeled off. I mean, I'm connecting things here, but I'm not, like, it's not explicitly stated, but he looks similar to the mechanical doll one and also the upper rank one, so we'll have to see why that occurred and what he was attempting to do. Mainly it sounds similar to like what Akaza was kind of offering to Tanjiro, well, not to Tanjiro, to Rengoku, I'm sorry, offering to Rengoku, except in this case the Hashira accepted the deal. So we'll see why that kind of goes on. That is going to be a very big clash. I think, though, now granted, I have not read the manga, but at some point I will. I just don't know if I'll get to it before the anime ends out. I do believe that the fighting towards the end will probably come down between Tanjiro and the upper rank 1 and Nezuko and Muzan, which will be interesting. Now, Nezuko in the sunlight is very kind of childish at the moment, so we don't know if she's kind of back to herself. And it was interesting because they were talking about the other demon doctor lady that, of course, Tanjiro has been sending the upper rank demon blood to. She's like, Nezuko has probably just been waiting to kind of get herself back to herself for some reason. Let me see. Yeah. So, conclusion-wise, I think that this was a nice continuation of the story. I think it had a good plotting arc and good balance of informing action with characters and giving us nice kind of character development and backstory without being too plot dumpy and flashback heavy, in my opinion. I think that they worked pretty well on that. Now, you can disagree with me on that, and that's fine. You could be completely disgusted with this because you're like, they spent too much time going into these Hashira's backstories. We're more interested with the plot right now, and not liking the action and the plot, and you kind of want more going forward. Like, this went either too fast or too slow. I completely get that. It's valid. I just don't have those concerns here. I really enjoyed this, and I liked seeing everybody kind of work together. Zenitsu and Inosuke being sidelined like they were, I'm fine with. Now, granted, if you're really into those characters, I'm sorry that that happened. I get that, and I think it was more important to get more information on the Hashiras, mainly on Tokito and Kanroji, so that way we have an understanding of these upper rank fighters and what kind of motivates them and kind of connects them more to what's kind of going on with their styles. Of course, Tokito probably was the missed Hashira because of the shrouding of his mind from his amnesia, and of course Kanroji because of love being such a central kind of thing to her character. It's like, okay, what's going to be Tanjiro's? I granted, probably the sun breathing and whatnot because of the Himokage Kagura kind of dance and everything like that. So we'll see what kind of goes on there. But yes, seeing people being able to utilize different kind of breathing techniques like they can, that's not, I don't think that's a very common occurrence. So we'll have to see how that kind of affects Tanjiro's arc and what kind of goes on. So hopefully we'll see kind of more of Zenitsu and Inosuke. I mean, I know they're very important characters, but I'm interested to see how long it's going to take with the other kind of arcs and what's going to be going forward and how we're going to come to our conclusions and everything. So I'm like, yay, thank you. Yeah, so those are my opinions on this season. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.